because I would like her to sort of give us a working definition of social entrepreneurship. What does it mean to be a social entrepreneur?
Okay, so at the university we have a six-part framework for what social entrepreneurship is, or what high-impact social enterprises are. But in a nutshell, it's the idea that you can utilize business and innovation in a way to improve social conditions in the world, sustainably.
Okay, good. So how did Northeastern get involved in this? Tell us about the institution of the Social Enterprise Institute. How did that get started? What do you do? How can people in here who don't know anything about it get involved, get connected?
Great. Okay, so the Social Enterprise Institute was started in about 2007 by Professor Dennis Shaughnessy. How many of you guys have taken a class with Professor Shaughnessy? Yeah, it's about half of the room. So Professor Shaughnessy is a retired business executive and intellectual property lawyer, so he really came from the business space. But throughout his travels, he was in the high technology and healthcare field. Had spent a lot of time traveling to different countries and realized that there were a lot of people who were very, very poor. He spent some time in Indonesia and in Mexico and also China. And as a result, when he retired, he calls it the Bill Gates way. He became a philanthropist and spent a lot of time donating to a lot of the big name organizations that you hear about, Grameen Bank and Partners in Health. And when you're a philanthropist, you want to know what kinds of organizations you're donating to and what your impact is. And so he really was kind of like a self-taught academic in the space of social enterprise. And as through his philanthropic activities, he started to understand things like microcredit, which at that time was kind of emerging. And then he came to Northeastern, started teaching in what is called the executive professor role, and taught some MBA classes in social enterprise. At that time especially, social entrepreneurship was really not something that you learn about at the undergraduate level, but even now at the MBA level, there are lots of MBA programs and fellowships that are dedicated to social enterprise studies. But so that was really innovative, something that we have that's kind of like our niche is how we cater to undergraduate services. And it started with just classes, so an MBA class, an undergraduate class, 40 students in each class, and the demand started to grow, so we've now had over 700 students who have taken the courses. There are 3 different courses in the social enterprise concentration and the interdisciplinary minor, which is housed with the International Affairs Department and the Human Services Department. It's growing, and we have jobs, on-campus jobs for students who are within the program. We offer summer programs to South Africa and the Dominican Republic, and also recently for the program in Central America and Belize. On the domestic side, we have an urban engagement program that's really catered for students who are interested in working with low-performing communities. We worked in Roxbury, Dorchester, and Charlestown. We also have a curriculum and a case series, which for those of you who've been to our website, you'll be able to see. They're all free with an open source platform for materials and things like that, whereas at other universities and institutions, they would normally charge. But yeah, so on campus, Social Enterprise Institute is definitely the student resource for people interested in this space.
What are the courses that you offer?
So there's a social entrepreneurship course, which I'd recommend as the intro course. It's like the basic course, and you get a really full scope of different issues involving social enterprise and health, and microcredit, and education. And then we have another course called Business, Global Poverty, and the Microfinance Revolution. And that course is a higher level course for students who are interested specifically in microcredit. And that course is kind of seminar style and meets once a week. And there's also now a capstone course, which is called Advanced Topics in Social Entrepreneurship. And that course is supposed to be kind of like a holistic view, and students are kind of organizing their own development project, utilizing everything that they've learned throughout the course of the years in their studies with International Affairs and Human Services to build a development model. And then he also teaches a few courses in the honors program, so a few students who have taken that course.
And you mentioned 2 trips to Dominican, South Africa, and I believe 3 trips to Belize. What would students be doing on those trips?
So the South Africa program is kind of our flagship program. It's the most popular, and it's a great way for students to understand urban entrepreneurship. So students spend time in Cape Town. They work with urban entrepreneurs who come from township communities, and townships are kind of like these racially segregated areas in South Africa where people live in pretty, I know this is really trite, but pretty tremendous poverty. And students work on a consultation basis, and so they'll meet with an entrepreneur maybe who's starting a catering business, and they do maybe 2 or 3 jobs a year, and they're looking to grow the business. And so we'll pair that entrepreneur up with students based on the entrepreneur's needs, and then we also work with South African students, and you kind of work on a deliverable for that particular entrepreneur. So the example that I usually give is the caterer who wanted to grow the business, and the caterer told students, I want a website, I'd like a marketing plan, I'd like a database of different resources that exist for me as an entrepreneur, and students spend 3 weeks gathering all that info, and they present it back at the end. At the end of that program, there's kind of like a microequity competition of sorts, and so students present on what they've done, and if the entrepreneur is eligible, they can get an investment between 1,000 and 10,000 rand to build their business. And not every business is eligible. Last year, I worked with 22 businesses, and only 3 were eligible for equity. So that's the South Africa piece for people who are interested in urban entrepreneurship. The Dominican Republic program is our microfinance program, and so that program takes place usually during summer 1. Students work with a very reputable microfinance institution called Esperanza International. They have over 18,000 borrowers, a lending portfolio of about $5 million. They operate in Haiti and Cuba, and this particular program is really heavily emphasized on social impact. So the microfinance organization may want to know, okay, we gave a loan of $125 to Jane in this community, and we want to know if this particular person has progressed out of poverty. Are they living better now? Do they have access to health, or do they now maybe they're really simple things is based on the Caribbean Bank's Progress Out of Poverty Index. So we'll be able to see, okay, borrower 2 years ago when they started had a dirt floor, and now they have a cement floor. Borrower used to sleep on the ground, now they have a mattress. Like simple things like that that students can observe and aggregate, and then they give a presentation to Esperanza at the end to talk about their findings. The first year they interviewed almost 300 borrowers. The second year was about the same. And the Belize program, which we're no longer running, was a good program. It was based on technical assistance. And so students lived in the jungle, which was not easy. And they worked with a microcredit institution that they call it technical assistance. And so it's kind of like the consulting piece that I was talking about in South Africa. So you're working with borrowers who have really micro businesses. They want to know how they can grow their businesses. They want to know, they just want more feedback and things like that. Last year's group, they went on the trip, also did a service lending component that was pieced into the technical assistance. So there would be a borrower named Joyce who her husband was an invalid and couldn't work, and they had a lot of recurring health issues, and so she received a micro grant which she didn't have to repay, and the students built her a snack shop where she could now sell all of her goods out of her home, whereas before it used to be out of a window in her house. So things like that.
I'm sure you'll have lots of questions, but we're going to move on to Miguel. So I wonder if you can just tell us a little bit more about your company.
Sure. Invest Development is an investment fund manager, so kind of like what a lot of you would hear of a venture capital type firm. We run a really small fund, especially on venture capital standards, that invests in startup companies that are targeting emerging markets. And specifically, we invest in companies that have an innovation in either mobile technology or alternative energy that is radically affordable. And that's kind of the key term there.